Welcome back to LTR Gaming, and I am Troy. In this particular video, I would like to talk about my experiences with the Xbox Series X while playing Mafia, the Definitive Edition. Now, I will be doing this for a lot of the games that I've going to be playing in the future, going forward for the Xbox Series X, giving you basically my breakdown, how I feel, what was the biggest difference in the game, and does the actual new hardware and software makes these older games run a lot better. Now, I've never played Mafia, the Definitive Edition. This game came out several generations ago, and I just haven't gotten around to it. As far as the series is concerned, I've played Mafia 3 though, and that was a pretty good game. I liked the story. The gameplay was pretty good as well, solid. And I always thought that, well, if they're going to remake this game, Mafia, then they're going to have to make it with modern controls, in which they did. And I appreciate the fact that they did. And I actually saw a comparison of the original Mafia game in Mafia Definitive Edition, and it's pretty much night and day. Obviously, you got new hardware, new technology, a new engine to run the graphics. The facial animations in Mafia Definitive Edition is great. It's some of the best acting also as well that goes along with this game that I've ever seen and heard in an actual video game. It actually felt like an actual movie. But what I found right interesting is that even though Mafia is an open world game, it's kind of chapter driven. It's not a lot of off the beat side quest missions that you can do, a lot of side activities that normally accompany open world games like a Grand Theft Auto. Like playing Grand Theft Auto Online, you're not just playing the missions, but you're racing, you're playing tennis, you have these lucrative heist businesses, a gamut of things to do in the open world game to make it feel more open and more realistic to life. Well, with Mafia Definitive Edition, while the game does look good and controls a hell of a lot better than the original, the world is really lifeless. I mean, you have people walking around, doing their own things, but driving around the city, you can't really interact with other pedestrians other than either you're running them over with your vehicle or you're shooting them. There's not stores that you can go into. You can't really change the customization of how your character dressed as far as their appearance or what kind of weaponry that they have. Once you beat the game, you then get to go back into the open world and play the game, but it's not really anything you can do in it other than just probably run around and look for collectibles. But at that particular moment, you will also be able to change your clothing and to change weaponry and vehicles that you have earned throughout the game. But during the actual story, you can't do any of that. Like I said, the game, night and day, there was some ghosting effects that I observed while playing the game. Like when a player's moving, through a building, you see like the 3D effect of their shell. You know what I mean? And that was the only thing. It ran at 60 frames per second, a lock 60, 4K. And mind you guys, they enhanced this game for the Xbox One X. So imagine, well, now you're playing it with the Xbox Series X, native 4K, HDR. You got that tracing going on, ray tracing going on. So I mean, it's a lot of fidelity upgrades that you can obviously see in the visuals. But again, the gameplay is what we come here for. The story in Mafia is a really good story. It's pretty much no spoiler alerts at this particular moment because this game probably been out at least 10 years or over 10 years now. But, you play as this cab driver who, happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. And, you assist the Mafia with getting away with the crime by driving them from point A to point B. Then you're actually invited to go up and meet the Don. And then after that, your actual story begins. You start doing missions and partaking in racketeering and this underworld criminal activity and things that actually happen in real life. But again, the acting is so good. These guys sound like real authentic 1930 Italian men in the Mafia business. And I really like that. It showed a lot of authenticity to the actual story. And, you know, normally when you do like a definitive edition of a game, you think they just slap some paint on it. But no, they didn't just slap paint on it. They built this game up again from the ground up to give you a reimagining of the actual Mafia game that came out over 10 years ago. So, you know, it's not like that they rushed this through just to get it out there. No, they actually took time and effort to, you know, make sure that this game looks and runs in a modern way. Now, once again, there's a large map, right? It's not as large as the Grand Theft Auto map. Don't expect that. But it's a large enough map. But I have to harken back to, again, the map felt empty. Like there were spaces in the map where I guess you would call the further north you go is sort of like the country, and the further south you go is sort of like the city and residential area. But there's large parts of the map where it's just nothing there. It's just open space. And I kind of feel like, you know, they could have added something there. But then again, if they would have added something there that wasn't naturally in the first game, could they really call it the definitive edition? Probably not. They probably could have called it the additional edition or added edition, added effects, added story stuff. They could have done a lot more than what they've done with it. Other than, like I said, again, the graphics and the gameplay is solid. I just feel like, it's a chapter-driven game, and we normally don't play first. We normally don't play open world games in that fashion. Like, we're gonna play an open world game. Sometimes you can play open world games where you don't even gotta deviate or do any of the main story quests to do the side missions. You can do a bunch of side missions, then once in a while jump in, do a story quest to advance the game, but you still have that plethora of things to do outside of the main quest missions. But with Mafia Definitive Edition, they don't really give you that option because there's really nothing else to do. Like I said, would I recommend this game to be checked out? Yeah, check it out. It's a great story again. And if you haven't played the original Mafia, well, you would want to play this one, because I don't think you would want to go back and play the original Mafia. So this is the best version of the first Mafia game, Mafia Definitive Edition. And, I would say it's a good, solid game, especially playing on the Xbox Series X with those upgrades and the horsepower now, able to produce this game, give it a solid run through. I think it enhanced it a hell of a lot more. Honestly, native 4K, especially you got to have a 4K monitor to see 4K resolution. But even if you were playing this game on a 1080p screen, I don't think it's going to look that bad. I haven't seen it on a 1080p screen. I've only played it in 4K. So I don't think it will be that bad, but I think there'll be a noticeable difference if you actually experience both. But overall, the Xbox Series X chugged this thing through. No hiccups, no frame rate tears, no stuttering, nothing in this game. No glitching. The game didn't stop, reboot at all one time. Not at all. There was actually one moment where I was taking a bunch of screenshots while I was playing the game, and I was kind of doing it recessively. I was kind of doing it back to back, taking screenshots. And that kind of froze up my Xbox Series X one time where I put up a video yesterday of, the caption of the video said, "Is my Xbox Series X bricking?" And I thought it was bricking at that particular moment. But I also come to realize, like, yo, you was taking a bunch of screenshots back to back, and that kind of, overloaded the system along with playing the game and switching in and out of apps with that. It's just, at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. You know what I mean? So, the quick resume is great. I was quick resuming, going into another game, then coming back to Mafia, then taking photos, and then going back to that other game, taking photos in another game. So, I was kind of, really, really running the system through its paces. But overall, I had a great experience with the game, especially playing it on the Xbox Series X. If you wanted to know, I don't know what the experience is like on the PS5, so, I can't help you there. But if you are an owner of the Xbox Series X and you've been thinking about playing Mafia, the Definitive Edition, I would say, yeah, check it out. It's worth your while. It's not a long game. You can get through it within 2 days if you're playing maybe 3 or 4 hours at a time. Or you can spread it out, play an hour a day, and, you know, take it in at your own time, your own leisure, your own pace. But it's not an extremely long game. You know what I mean? So don't expect that. Anyway, guys, this is LTR Gaming. I'm Troy. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video so I can continue to bring you guys the best quality on YouTube here. And don't forget, play your games and be happy.